Sheerlee here with siriustalesmoon. This is Moon Hour, and this is Mercury Night. The moon is in 16 degrees Libra, Hasta Nakshatra. I really love this Nakshatra. It is so healing, and it has the power of touch. And I had a dream to do with that. And so I'm not going to talk about the dream, um, but I don't want to give an energy reading because I felt that there was a conversation taking place, and it had to do with somebody reaching out a hand to grab, not to grab for to harass or to take, but to say, wait a second, you're standing there in your humdrum life with all of these rules and tests, um, and it's not where the actual thing happened, and and that was and that point is a valid point, okay? Um, the point where, wait a second, come here, this is where the things actually happen. And trying to show that basically um, that's a stand that holds water. And they were they were having a point in the sense that, hey, we want to be with the things that are actually happening. Hey, we want to be with where we can actually grow. Or um, and also wanting to show that they can actually care for children. And that was and that was something that is to be credited for. Okay, that's something that it was a very valid point. And they were also showing how should I say that? The many masks of something, because it was looking like somebody was switching into someone, and then showing that they're not there, they're elsewhere. Um, but then they were, how should I say that? They were playing an emotional game. And however, it's important, what's important here is that the person that they were turning to was also at a level where that conversation prompted actual growing. Because it prompted the point where, wait a second, it's not just I have a pregnant cat. So I was dreaming about her having a baby. It was like it's not just the it's not just about the cat giving birth. And the baby had an issue with the feet, and then was given love because the baby believed it was left out and it was not. And that conversation was prompting something within the other party where if the topic of children or childbirth or okay those things that and here is where the connection, because that person wouldn't just do family in the same way that okay, one person was talking about career and they were like, come here, here's where the big things happen, and it also brings the water. And the other person was like, they wouldn't do family in the same way. Okay, that person was saying that they were doing career or degree, even though it was very wrong. It's not. It was not the truth. But the point was that the desire to come to where the things actually happen is a very valid point. And this is where I want to say this is where the jabs began. But just this saying is so important, because the other person, the energy, they wouldn't just do family life like, how should I say that? Growing kids for the nation, let alone for the network. Okay? And this is where that point that somebody reached them with, hey, come here, this is where the things happen. Yes, it holds the water. And that baby was felt left out. I could care for babies. And then it was like, wait a second. In this place where the real things happen, it was something to do with the rules. And and there was, in this place where the real things happen, other than kittens, which we worked very hard to not, and even there were kittens sacrificed. In this place where the real things happen, basically the children are not always as safe. And the policies and um, the thing that actually takes to grow a child. But what's important in that conversation, something sparked something. And then that other energy was wrapped up in a lot of safety. The kind of safety that it would take to grow a child. And there were things that were trying to intervene with that safety. And the other energy said, wait a second, I do need to be seen if I'm wrapped up in the energy that a child would be feeling embraced in, loved. And a child is their own sovereignty. It's not the country's child. It's not the network's child. And so what I'm getting is that, and this is why I'm giving that energy reading, because it's not that one person perhaps was almost completely emotionally blackmailing. And I said, oh, you won't be able to reach me now. You won't be able to reach me now. But that's not how we actually grow. However, the other energy was also aware of the fact that, hey, wait a second, that's a eureka. That safety is not the rules. It's not because these are the rules. It's because it's actually needed to grow. And because one energy came up with, come on, what are you worrying about? Come here. But and the other energy was like, what am I worrying about? Did you listen to Annika Lucas? What am I worrying about? She's not imagining. So, um, and so that, but the interesting thing was that both of these energies had things swept under the rug. I have Moon in my 8th house. The Moon is birthing, mothering, caregiving, children. And the conversation is actually an important conversation, because in the places where things actually happen, there are risks, of course, and yet to grow, whether it's to grow family or to grow children, um, is both taking the risks. It is both being safe in a love that is calm and persistent and consistent. And it's not about, how should I say that? It's not about, it's not about the energy that moves through. It's not a blame. Is, wait a second, I identify that all of these points are important, yet that was emotional blackmail. And I also identify where my emotions were not ripe or not mature to even understand what I need. And this is um, definitely not a place where, how should I say that? It's not about rules. It's about children being safe, having a childhood, being able to grow, and in those places where the things happen, certain things do need to change, not because these are the rules. So this energy is the reason that I'm giving that as an energy reading, because the many conversations happening right now. Mars is squaring Neptune on the honorific degree of Sag and Pisces, so big Jupiter themes. Jupiter is in Cancer, which is children, family, but also the motherland and the nation and so on. And the moon is in Hashta Nakshatra, which is about to do with the healing touch. And basically, it's a touch of love. It's actually loving. And Venus again is in Sag. It's kind of like, that's children. And so, because there are so many things happening, whether it's in the media or in the world events, even in the energy reading world, okay? And I saw Light's video, I will attend to that, but I really wanted to give that energy reading because there is a conversation of growth here that is very important. And more than a physical labor of birth, the topic of the children have their own sovereignty. And it's not the nations. It's not even their parents. Okay, that of course, their parents care for them. There's this song that's saying your children are not your children. It's not your children are not your children because they're the government to be sacrificed into blood sacrifices. is that they are their own. And that means that both the parents need to be able to love unconditionally. One needs to live. And not only that, the immediacy. Before I was going to sleep, I was watching some travel videos to do with my North Node. And I have North Node in the fourth house, which is housing, motherland, upbringing, family, which is very strange to me. Because North Node is where we haven't been before. And fourth house, by the way, also my mother had North Node in the fourth house. And she insisted on having natural birth. It was actually an issue because, and so when I was a child, I didn't get why. And when I know now about the cloning project, I'm like, okay, it's not about whether one would have childbirth, but that there, first of all, that there's the ability to have childbirth, and secondly, that one is growing children for their children, for them to have this environment of unconditional love that allows them to take the risks and so on. And they're not the nation's children. They're not the network's children. They're not even their parents' children in the sense that, how should I say that? They have their own trajectory, and there's something that it's a life that grows that is nourished with love. They're not here for a legacy. They're not here to make us proud. Being proud is a part of growing a child, in fact. Is a natural being proud of. And my experience with women that allow themselves to express themselves, let's say, in bed because they were my neighbors. Okay, so they allow themselves to be more vocal in bed, very simply put. And then they got a child just like them. And that's an experience because it challenges us to look within, and we can't scrutinize someone for being us. So, and not only that, the children's path has to do with the grandparents, which means that the conversation between the children and their parents is less harmonic at the very at the very least. um, it doesn't mean that people cannot enjoy being parents. It just means that to enjoy being parents, they really need to be able to both. They're dealing with someone that is exactly like them and rebels them. And the fact that they rebel them is exactly like them. And their trajectory is continuing on something from a previous generation, which is why we tend to healing things with our parents, either upon or before having children. Um, and there is the also very real issue that where the things actually happen, um, there are the issue of life and death, let's say, is a big deal. Yesterday I wrote a post about um, um, the fact that the implication of extortion calls is that the technician of, and this is a real story by the way, I knew a person who was technician of planes and or ships is mind controlled. Um, and those things are not only to do with the health of the children, but also with the fact that in the place where the things happen, this is how the world is right now. And not only that, the deepest issue that came about, and it's going to sound like a jab, but it's not. Because as an astrologer, those are things that happen. Also, as a relational astrologer, okay? When I said I'm married to astrology, I ran into people with Uranus, the planet of astrology, in my seventh house planet of marriage. Almighty descendant. But this is really, um, um, and Uranus will ingress to the sign of the Uranus opposition for me. Um, when the eclipses with the sun and the moon that gave me the leaders are people, people are leaders, and I did chart of populist leaders, and so what I was seeing is I'm seeing how that translates in my life, definitely, in a megalithic way, is the notion of Mars and Venus and being safe. And provide, I covered the charts for Gladio and how so much of that. Yesterday I talked about, watched a video on a Pacific, on the Indo-Pacific, and he had a bomb bigger than the Hiroshima. And I said this bomb could only have been that desire to destroy all that is, juxtaposed with what was coming with the energy reading, could only have come from tremendous, tremendous abuse that makes the people, particularly the expandable children, and even some that survive, desire to destroy all that is, and it juxtaposes with all these things that are coming up. And that's not humdrum books. It's a real reality. And so to grow a family that is not a humdrum family, a family where the children do get to see the world. I know that I traveled Europe, um, and the importance of traveling to seeing the world in different eyes is immense. This is why I'm beginning to look at astrocartography and my North Node line. But not only, there are many things. And the fact that to provide for actual safety, security, cannot be economic hitmanship, at least not to the degree where, how should I say that, where one would be fearsome to even think about birthing children because they don't want them to be the children of the network, um, or even the children of the nation. And that's about, it's not just the cat having kittens. It's and that's about um, the many things from even whether a person has their own childbirth or whatever, but the many things. First of all, it takes for to correct so that people will be able to have their own childbirth. And when people, for example, in the United States, a person could have come from the most complicated birth, and then the baby out of the womb, bye-bye. Or pay more. That's not an environment for to grow children. I'm not gonna talk about the jabs. But that's and and for me the important thing with this energy reading was to say that yes, it's not oh somebody was a winner or loser or somebody was making that move. It's like it's a conversation, and that energy conversation has implications in real life. It's like, hey, we should be able to be happy and joyous doing things. It's very true. Rules are not just there to be obeyed. It's not because these are the rules. And we do want to be able to grow life, which was for me the eureka because it was through this notion of wait a second, I do need to be embraced to be safe and have that safety both in feeling and in policies. Okay? In policies that actually enforce where that actually provide safety. And okay, I'm not going to talk, too much about that energy reading, but um, of course, I could see how that came about and how it's so funny that we're having, maybe one of the things that I tended to was, um, it's not that there was a declaration of war, but there was the awareness that there can be a megalithic one. And I tend to the topic of sexual sovereignty. Therefore, I identified, and with Lilith, that gnosis remains, that sexual sovereignty is going to be the thing. If between wars it was the suffragists and those and basically all the people that would have resisted women voting died. Okay, as nobody necessarily planned for that to be, but eventually and essentially that's how it was. And I'm not just talking about the men. Okay. Um, and that's a part of this growth crisis where to grow children is not for the motherland, it's not for the nation. It's not that the nation and the motherlands are not important. It's not even, it's not for the parents in the sense that we know that we're ready when we're able to look at something grows for its own sake and just adore it. And it's not, and here's the thing. If someone is ready, is ready. If someone is not, is not. It's not about and within that mess, I had to tend to um, if I think about how my profile came to be, um, a platform, then I think about the places where I was disincluded and then suddenly being included in something that gave me a lot of information to be where I am right now. And at the same time, by the same token, um, anybody that will, in praxis, declare war or preparation for war is not going to be, everybody press people to declare war. Nobody likes it when they do, and nobody appreciates the person that says, "Okay, we're going to be killed by the billions." And at the same time, what the actual, just like a war is wealth consolidation of natural resources, and if we hide that fact and we talk in all kinds of nice political theories, then we don't get to what war is actually about. And that's indeed a valid point. Okay, that we're not actually taught in academia what war is about. And it's not about the wealth of nations. It's the it's the wealth of those who consolidate the wealth. Which is why the very consolidation of the wealth need to be a process where life can grow. Otherwise, we have 25 million years of radiation because somebody wanted to throw a bomb bigger than the Hiroshima, and they may have had all the reasoning to do that in some way. But that kills also the bunkers, that's first. And secondly, and secondly, um, the only reason that we are, or people can talk about economic hitmanship and all the things that they like to talk about, but essentially is because of that issue of sexual sovereignty. It's not the rules. It's the thing that actually sparks life. Um, it was presented that the rules after a shit ton of ritual abuse. So the person will be feeling free doing the very things that would get them extorted and assassinated. Sun trines Chiron. Sun 22 in says trining Chiron in 22 Aries, which is close to home. I have Mercury there, which is ruler of my fourth house, and seventh. So um, yeah. So this is something that does present the intrigue, and it is an energy conversation. Okay, it's not about one person made fool of themselves or one person not. It's like, wait a second. First of all, we can make fool of ourselves and still have life. Like, people can grow, and secondly, it's a conversation. It's not a duel. It's a conversation. And thirdly, it's just so funny that the thing about being safe in an embrace like a baby, and that being a sign of like, can this person father my children? But before that, do I feel safe with him, like that? Like that baby is present, consistent, and the fact that I had not been aware that that was a meaning. on an emotional level. And there was something very powerful, which was the conversation between the cognitive, the intellectual, and the visceral experiential. Because that playfulness arises within safety. And the fact that the entire conversation took place around something that led to something to do with birthing, caregiving, and so on. So, um, more to say about that. Yeah, it's not. I think that it is going to be relevant for a lot of people that may resonate with one or the other figures, or with both, or because it's a time where, yeah, there is the preparing for war, such as even our parents and grandparents didn't know, and this is very true. It's not a lie. It's not because somebody, and it's not even because somebody did economic headmanship. It is something that, um, Neptune enters 15 years of change, innovation, the head of the baby, and on a mundane level, we're basically fighting over how we're going to grow our children. The Aries is the head of the baby, and so to prepare the head of the baby, or to prepare for the birthing of Neptune in Aries, that baby's sovereign. The regime around this baby is sovereign. The power relation around this baby allow for this baby to be sovereign. It's not a baby for a militia. It's not a baby for the nation. It's not a baby for the network. It's a baby for his sovereign self. And what needs to change in the world? So yeah, that's a megalithic war. Many societies, not just elite, also indigenous. You would think that that baby, when it is boy or girl, when it is before it even hits puberty, which comes at lower and lower ages, it is to be married to an adult, or not an adult. An adult is a very misleading word here, but a person way more grown that occupies way more power position. And the way that in those secret societies those power positions happened was by people going through abuse and then harvesting their energy harvested and then them harvesting energy. Those things are not the rules. Those things are things that need to change so we can actually flow. And those things were presented as the internal experience of union with innocence. And innocence destroyed at the same time. Plus shit ton of drugs and cameras. So um, so nobody likes the person that says, "Oh, we're going to a big war." Okay, it's kind of like, even if they like the person, a lot of people are kind of like, of course they're going to give him hate for saying that. But first of all, how do people expect to be prepared for the war? And secondly, did they tend to, on a global, indigenous, commoners, modern and elite level to those things that is swiped under the rug as satanic panic. If not, of course, the wars such as even our grandparents and great-grandparents could not even envision. And in that comes this energy reading, which is about safety and providing of actual safety. And that is for the children, for the children. But those are also real conversations, because without invoking those things within our own psyche, we don't actually tend to things, and we don't actually have the conversations, whether in energy or not. And yes, of course, there are shit fucks scary in this economy. So in this economy, is saying, come here. You like that touch? Come here. It's kind of like, yeah. We're not going over the rainbow. We're going in this life. And the passage, or the rite of passage around that, was the rite of passage of time travel over the rainbow. And that's not sustainable. Humiliation rites are not good for fertility. Okay? Neither is trafficking cults. Now, there was something funny. In the dream, there was a lady. She was having blonde hair, a young woman. She would start talking about the rules. It may resonate for somebody. I don't know what that means. I don't know who she was. She was starting to talk about the rules. And she was a young lady. Young, like her skin was still somewhere between, like, in her 20s even. And she was starting to talk about the rules. And she's like asking about what are the rules to be obeyed and this and that. And I'm like answering her depending on what context.